Krishna want, you can put hands to the prayer, or if you are capable, you can also bow down, and we're going to offer obeisances to big personalities or holy places. So. Thank you. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajukacharya Ashtatara Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajukacharya Ashtatara Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadha Shivasad Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Brajamandala Ki Jai, Bhaktivedanta Manor Ki Jai, Gaura Premanande, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, come sing for Narasimha. Very good. So, please be patient and pray with us for
Namaste Narasimhaya. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, we're going to very shortly now be doing a class on the Bhagavad Gita, so if you'd like to stay, and we'll do chapter 10, verse 22 of the Bhagavad Gita.
And the class is going to be given by Rajesh Krishna Prabhu, sir. Haribol.
Silent. Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Radha Gokul Nand Radha Gokul Nand Radhe. Jayo Radha Gokul Nand Radha Gokul Nand Radhe. Jayo Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jayo Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jayo Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the first lecture of this week on a nice, crisp Monday evening. So today we are going to be talking on chapter 10, verse 22. Where's it gone? So we're going to be reading. We'd like to welcome all the listeners here and also online as well. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to take all the blessings of our senior devotees and everyone here. I will try my best to see what I can do to explain this verse. So if I make any mistakes, please forgive me. So let's try. So it's text 22 from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 22. Chapter 10 is entitled The Opulence of the Absolute. So text 20. Vedanam samavedosmi. Devanam asmi vasavaha. Indriyanam manasa chashmi. Bhutanam asmi chetanas. Vedanam samavedosmi. Devanam asmi vasachaha. Indriyanam manaschasmi. Bhutanam asmi chetana. Anybody else would like to try? Vedanam samavedasmi. Devanam asmi vasvaha. Indriyanam manaschasmi. Bhutanam asmi chetanas. Anyone else? Asmi. Devanam asmi vasvaha. Indriyanam manaschasmi. Bhutanam asmi chetanas. So, translation, Vedanam, of all the Vedas, Samveda, the Sama. Samaveda, Asmi, I am. Devanam of all the demigods. Asmi, I am. Vasva, the heavenly king. Indriyanam, of all the senses. Mana, the mind. Cha, also. Asmi, I am. Bhutanam, of all the living entities. Asmi, I am. Chetana, the living force. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Of the Vedas, I am the Samaveda. Of the demigods, I am Indra, the king of heaven. Of the senses, I am the mind. And in the living beings, I am the living force, consciousness. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The difference between matter and spirit is that matter has no consciousness, like the living entity. Therefore, this consciousness is supreme and eternal. Consciousness cannot be produced by a combination of matter. So it's quite interesting, this chapter. So what we'll do. Om Jnanatimrindasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhavaitam Sadhutam Parijana Saitamya Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padham Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishaka Hamsicham He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namastute Taptaka Changa Gaurangi Vrinde Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakal Padrubascha Kirpa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Gosade Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is quite an interesting chapter, this one. It's called Opulence of the Absolute. Now when you read the word opulence, it means something that's so magnificent, something that's really important. It's like something really outstanding, something really which when you look at it, you think, wow, this is really, really good. I wonder what it could be. So this is the topic, the opulence of the absolute. Now, this chapter, when we look at it, for a common person to see the for the common person to see the opulence of the absolute, how can we come to the temple so we know something about God and who God is and what He looks like? But for the common person, for them to know who is God, how do I see God? Where is He? How can He perceive Him? How can they see Him? Because we say Krishna's presence is everywhere in the world, but for a common layman, for him to find out, it's so difficult. So Krishna is described in many various ways, different aspects, but everything is best. He is the best in everything that we see. Like I don't think there's many people in here who do mountain climbing. Anyone climbs mountains? Yeah. So which is the most difficult mountains to conquer? You know? Yeah, and where is the Everest? All right. In the Himalayas. And that's where Krishna says, of the most powerful thing that there is, the most difficult, that represents Krishna. So immediately when one talks of any mountains, the thought that comes to mind is the Himalayas. You don't think of any other mountains, yet there are so many, like in the Americas and Canada and so many other countries, there's so many mountains, but the prominent one that comes to mind is the Himalayas. So Krishna says, of all the mountains there are, it's the Himalayas, so the topmost one. And then when you're in the jungle, the most the powerful animal in the jungle is the lion. And the lion is known as the king of the jungle. So Krishna represents the lion who's the king of the jungle. So anything that we see, any intricate thing we see, the topmost, the best of all, that represents Krishna. So that's how the common man will see the mountains. Krishna is saying, I represent the mountains of the Himalayas, of the best beast in the jungle. It's the lion. Now we can see that Krishna has talked a little bit about, we come into this topic of the opulence of the opulence of the absolute. But Krishna, if you go a little bit back in the Bhagavad Gita, he has actually talked a little bit about the absolute before. Back in chapter 7, which is the knowledge of the absolute. So slowly as we progressing through the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's revealing many times about himself, who he is, what he does, what he looks like. And now on chapter 10, he's talked about himself. He's not like he's bragging about himself. He's not very egoistic. He's not like, yeah, this is me and everything. So, but he's gently telling Arjuna that, you know what? For anyone to understand me, there has to be a process to follow. You follow gently, and then you'll understand me. In chapter 7, where he talks about the knowledge of the absolute, he gives so many hints in that. But how do we actually know about the absolute truth? It's we have it in the Brahma Samhita. It says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachi Ananda Vigraha Anadi Nadir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. And that quite specifically states that Krishna is the source of all sources. He's a doer. He's everything. So quite emphatically it states it on there. But when we are in chapter 7, find it. No, I can find it. But yeah. Krishna is what he's trying to say is, with his opulence, he's the binding force of everything that you see around here. He's everything is held together by him. It's just like when you see a necklace from a jeweler's. You see a beautiful diamond necklace. You see the shining jewels of the diamond. But the intricate part that actually holds everything together, we don't actually see that. Because you can see the diamonds hanging from the neck, but the actual clasp is at the back, So Krishna is like that. He says, O conqueror of, verse 7, Mata Paratam Nayanat Kinchit Asti Dhananjaya Mai Sarvam Idam Prutam Sutre Mani Gana Iva. He's saying, O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So Krishna represents that thread, and everything is held together by that thread. So in a similar way, it's telling us that the absolute truth is not some myth or something, not something mythological, but it's actually a person. And further down in chapter 7, in the purport, Krishna, Srila Prabhupada actually says that quite emphatically, that the absolute truth is a person. We know where he lives, what he looks like, what he does, and everything is all quite clearly stated in there. So now that we've established that Krishna is a person, and who he is, what he looks like, and then he's also saying that who he actually is, for everyone to understand him, like even the common man, if he was to try and understand who is Krishna, he says it, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, all these 8 constitute my separated material energies. So when you think of that, every person can see the main 5, which is earth, water, fire, air, and ether. They're all around us. We can see them day and night, all the time. So that's his great, like, you can see this great creation of God, like by Krishna, we can see it. It's there every day for us. We see the blue skies, we see the sun, we feel the winds, we see the storms and everything. And yet, the other 3, mind, intelligence, and false ego, they're so hard for us to see that Krishna is behind that. Now, why is that? Because we think it's mine, it's something personal to me, it belongs to me. So that's why Krishna is emphatically saying that of all the things that you can think of, I am behind everything. Then Krishna goes on to say, if somebody doesn't understand that ideology behind it, why Krishna is the absolute, then he goes, what do we have every single day? We need to survive on that. Krishna says, O Kunti, O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water. We drink water every day. We can see Krishna's presence in water. The light of the sun, we see the sun every day. And the moon, we see that almost every day. And the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras, I am the sound in ether and the ability in man. So for a normal person to understand who this, a normal person out on the street to understand who is this absolute truth, like we say Krishna is the absolute truth, about how he's given you so many examples of avenues that you can see what represents Krishna. And then he goes on to state, like when it's been really heavily raining after dry season, and what happens then? You have monsoon rains. Then he goes on to say, I am the original fragrance of the earth. I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives. I am the penances of all the aesthetics. So you can see he's literally covered all aspects that you could think of. He's telling you he's the sky, the wind, the ether, the fire, the mind, intelligence. Okay, you have the earth, you have the fragrance of the earth, is the heat and the fire, in everything that lives. I'm the taste of water, because everybody needs water. The light from the sun, he's the light of the sun. And the moon, and the sound Om of the Vedic mantras. And he's the ability in man himself. So in so many ways he's described himself. Who is Krishna? Who is the absolute truth? So initially he's told Arjuna all these different ways that one can understand Krishna. So we come to a point now where we want to know more about the the absolute truth. So now we want to know his opulence of the absolute truth. And the beautiful thing is, when we think of God, we normally think that he's some person up in the sky somewhere, up there somewhere, with a long white beard and probably looking down, and he must be very old, but we get an idea from the Vedas, from the scriptures, and thanks to Srila Prabhupada, we can get a good understanding of who Krishna is, who the absolute truth is. The Supreme Personality of God is, as we say, Krishna. He's it's so hard to fathom logically when you think of it, but he's the smallest of the smallest minute thing that you can think of. Krishna is there, and it's the greatest of the greatest. So the greatest thing that we can probably think of is like the biggest animal that is probably like an elephant. So Krishna, on one hand, you can see represents elephant. He's there, right? He's inside that. And yet you get the smallest of ant, in comparison size-wise, Krishna is in that as well. So irrespective of where they stand, Krishna is in everything. So as Krishna stated, he's always the greatest amongst things like the Himalayas. Now he's saying he's amongst the Devatas, he's the greatest. He's Indra. And among the mantras, he's Om. So Krishna's not really, like you say, boasting about himself, but he's telling Arjuna that, I am all this, just look, just think of me, just, I can do all this, but for you to understand is very difficult. But how do you understand me? You have by becoming his devotee. Now, we've all heard of Indra many times. Indra's quite, I would say, famous. Not sort of famous, but Indra is quite known because Indra was also in doubt that who is this Krishna? I mean, what is he? Like we've all heard of the pastimes of Govardhan Hill. Okay. When normally the villagers used to pray to Lord Indra for everything, and then Krishna says, well, why do you just pray to the hill, the mountain, Govardhan? And that supplies you with everything that you need. And obviously Indra took offense to that, and all the villagers, they listened to this small child. They say, yeah, okay, we'll offer everything to this mountain here, Govardhan. And what happened after that, we know that Indra became very furious, very angry. It came to a point where he started raining continuously for 7 days. And then Krishna, to protect all his inhabitants, he lifted up the whole of the mountain to provide shelter for the villagers. And he lifted that mountain on his left finger, small finger of his left hand, for 7 days and nights. And that's when Indra realized that this is no ordinary person, So even amongst all the demigods, he's saying, because Indra is considered to be topmost, and he goes, I'm Indra. So now we come to the Vedas, of the Vedas, I'm the Samveda. It's Krishna saying that, of all the Vedas there are, I'm the Samveda. Now, when you think of it, originally there was the Rig Veda. And then from the Rig Veda, it got divided into 4. So you have the Rig Veda, Athur Veda, Samveda, and the Yajur Veda. And then that again is subdivided again. Then you have the Upanishads, the Samhitas, you have the Mahabharata, you have the Ramayana, and they're probably subdivided again into different chapters. So when you think of just the Bhagavad Gita, it has 700 verses, and to remember all 700 is probably going to take us a good year or so. And whereas when you get to the Bhagavatam, there's about 18,000 verses. So that'll take slightly longer, a good few years to remember the verses. So now, if you think of it, that's just, the Bhagavatam's, 18 Puranas, like in 12 cantos, and you think how many, like nearly 18,000 verses. Trying to remember that is going to take a hell of a long time. But just imagine trying to read the Vedas themselves, I'm definitely sure I can't do it in this lifetime, let alone another 10 lifetimes. I won't be able to do it. So our lifetime is very small in comparison to the demigods. Even for them to understand is difficult. So that's why, thanks to Srila Prabhupada, he's made it so concise for us. It's incredible. Like, he's given us the Srimad Bhagavatam and he's given us the Bhagavad Gita. He goes, that's the book of life, basically. If you can understand this, you can understand Krishna. That's your goal of life is covered. But as I was saying, there's the Vedas. Of all the Vedas, he's the Samveda. So now it's interesting he says that because a bit further down, he actually says it. Krishna is very. Krishna says, Sarvasa chaham hridan sanivesto matar smirtam yanam apohanam cha Vedas cha sarvasam aham eva vedyo Vedanta krit veda vid eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known indeed. I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I'm the knower of the Vedas. So, we're talking about the opulence of Krishna here, of the absolute truth. He's just saying, like, I am of the Vedas, I'm a Samveda. And a bit further down, he's 101% saying that, I've actually written the Vedas. So all those Vedas, the Rig Veda, they all come from me. I'm the actual author. Like when we see a book, it tells you this is the author. But Krishna didn't put his name down underneath that, oh yeah, this book is written by me. But he gave it to Srila Vyasadeva, saying, like, you take the credit, put your name underneath. Yet he's the compiler of the Vedas. So that's why he's saying, of all the Vedas, that I am Samveda, so the topmost Vedas is coming from me. So that's why that's where I stand in this position. Now, to understand all this, it's like, we have to, it's not an easy thing to understand. We have to go through a process called yoga. A lot of people have yoga. There's many different forms and aspects of yoga. I think the most common one nowadays is yoga is where people, poses and everything, they help all that different, that's more like for the image that portrays one as yoga. It's not like the image where you think that, you're going to be actually studying the scriptures or reading something. That's more like yoga. Because yoga, what does it actually mean? It actually means to connect to the Lord. That's our main purpose of yoga. Because even the yoga poses, they all come from the Vedas themselves. So in the Vedas, there's specific aspects, and they're all subdivided from 1 to 4 to again 4, then another 4, then another. So the yogas are actually part of the Vedas. So they're all trying to help us reconnect to the Lord, because we have this relationship with Him, with the Lord, Krishna, and it's been lost over time. Therefore, there's a need to reestablish that relationship with Him. It's like children. If they're living with their parents, and if they have an argument, if they go away for some time, then they realize they still have that relationship with the parents. It's not that, okay, everything's completely lost. But then you do try to, for some reason, you will try to make amends and get that relationship going again. So that's similar to what we have done. We've sort of broken off our relationship with Him, and we need to get back onto our relationship with Krishna and join Him with Him again. And to do this, we have what we call karma yoga. Now, karma yoga, there's two types. There's one which is called Sakam Karma Yoga, in which we follow rules and regulations. Don't do this, but but what's the end result is, it's for material desires, because some people think before I came into Krishna consciousness, we all had this oh, you shouldn't do this on a Monday, you should do this on a Thursday, you should do this on a certain day. Why? Because you get X, Y, and Z. I think my wife will correct me, like they say, on Mondays, if you fast for so many Mondays for Lord Shiva, you get a good husband. I don't know whether she succeeded in that or not. I have no idea. Only time will tell. But, this is one of those things there. But now, because you want that material gain, you want something from it. But then, on the other aspect is, you have the Nishkam karma, which is you're detached from the results. You're not really too worried. You just focus that I have to do this. This is my duty. For us, it's like Srila Prabhupada said, you must follow the 4 regulatory principles. You must chant your 16 rounds. That's it. That is your duty. You just got to do this, focused, 101%. Just do it. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about the results. They will follow themselves, but just do this. I'm telling you to do this. Which is good for us, because that is the first stepping stone in our spiritual growth, because without having this, we detach from it. We leave everything to Srila Prabhupada and Krishna, because let them take care of everything. Our only duty is that we focus on our chanting and our hearing and following the regulatory principles, and we're not attached to anything. We're not saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to do 16 rounds today, but you know what, if I do an extra 4, I'll get X, Y, Z. No, it doesn't work that way, We're not here to bargain with Krishna saying, look, okay, I'll do this for you, provided you give me this back in return. No, it's not a give and take thing, It's because it's not, with Krishna we don't have a give and take thing. Back in India, many normal Indian households, what they do is we have so many gods, like they say, you've got so many gods, man, how do you cope with all them, And people say, oh, there's a god for this, you have a demigod for that, you have a demigod for this. If you want this and you do this and follow this for him and he'll fulfill your wishes, You do this and he'll fulfill that wishes. There's so many, rituals that we have to follow as well. If you do this, it's only recently started, but before you think here in this country, you make houses. Now that people are following this Vastu thing, oh, the house should be facing this, the door should be this way, and the window should be this way, and that should be that way. But we've all come into these houses that we bought. We don't know which one, they've never even undergone any kind of Vastu. So for us, it's like you're just moving in. But now people are following all these rituals. But why are they doing all these things? Why are they following these things? Before there was a reason why people did do all these rituals. It's because there was a higher purpose for it. But what we do nowadays is because we focus on ourselves. I want to get a house. I want to make a house. Oh, you know what? I want to make it for myself. I think I'll have the window there. The door should be there. We consult the Vastu people, for how to make the house. And we think it's good for me because if I have the door facing this way, maybe I'll get negative energy. Maybe if I have something this way facing something else that happen. But we're missing out who that house is actually belonging to. Who is it for? So we're thinking for our own needs. We focus on me and not God. Because we always say that we should put God in the center of everything. We just use God as a means to fulfill all my needs, all our needs, all my needs. I'll do this and you fulfill this for me. As long as I get what I want, it's like supply. He's my constant supplier of everything. God's just going to be supplying me with everything I need. But it doesn't have to be that. It shouldn't be that way either. Because the thing is, for us to understand Krishna, yes, he's more than willing to give everything we need, but he needs something in return from us. He wants some kind of commitment from us. It's like he wants us. Srila Prabhupada is so kind, and he's told us what Krishna wants. Krishna doesn't want. He's got everything basically. Someone's got everything else. What can you give him? He just wants to see our loyalty, our commitment to him. Srila Prabhupada, quite emphatically says that all he wants us just to. Krishna wants. We should just serve Krishna. That's all we should be doing. Whether at the altar here, at home, or going to preach to someone. Anyway, that's how we should serve. But to understand Krishna, you have to go through this process of karma yoga. Once you come to Nishkam karma yoga, you go to Jnana yoga. You learn more about Krishna. And you fall into that meditation, then you go through a process of Ashtanga yoga. Is yamas and niyamas and, don't do this. You sit like this in this position here, and you have to focus your mind. Because don't forget, the mind is so turbulent, it doesn't rest for a minute. We see quite often all these, the images that come to your mind is you want to sit in a quiet place and just meditate. And quite often you see this vivid image of these sadhus, up in the Himalayas, away from everything that can literally disturb them, so they can just sit quietly, focus completely on their meditation, and sit in the asana position, and then they're controlling the breath, they're controlling pranayama, they're controlling pratyahara, what they're eating and everything, and only then can they sort of focus the mind, meditate deeply, and come into a state of samadhi. That's when they can connect with the Lord. That's why we say, you need every day, what Srila Prabhupada has given us, he's saying, at least for your moment of chanting, we can consider that as our niyama. You have that gap of 2 hours where you can dedicate to Krishna just to completely focus on him. That's all we're doing with our chanting, just completely focus on our chanting. Your mind should not be wandering here, there, but just as much as you can try and focus. And that's why, I personally, for me, as an example, I do 16 rounds, and you think, out of those 16, I've probably done, it's difficult to control the mind, I'll be honest, it's difficult, but out of those 16, at least I've probably done one good round, where I've 100% focus. Because it's difficult, as soon as you start chanting, you give yourself that time, and you think, okay, I'm going to start chanting now. The mind will automatically drift this way, that way. Oh, what am I going to do later on? What am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do next week? Oh, I've got this to do, I've got that to do. The mind just runs chaos everywhere. So we're trying to focus and bring it back, and, that's why we always say that you have to bring the mind back, because it's turbulent, That's why, why is that? Because we always have that I am in the center. We have to put Krishna in the center. Like in the mornings when you come to the manor, you have the Tulsi Mara here, and we're meditating. And the thing is, the whole sound vibration is different, because that's all you're hearing is just the chanting of the mantra that helps to focus the mind. And Srila Prabhupada has quite boldly made a very good statement saying that what we're trying to do is establish a relationship of love with someone. Srila Prabhupada has very emphatically made a very bold statement that there's no real love in this world. The thing is, if you love someone, it's for a reason. Real love means when you're completely focused to give pleasure to the object of love. It's when you're in the younger years, you have small children, they play happily together. But as they grow older, supposing you have like, 6, 7-year-old girls and boys playing together, they just play normally, they have no idea of what's what. But as soon as they grow a little bit older, they become attracted to someone. And once they become attracted to someone, they have the fondness. And if if they fall in love with someone, they'll commit themselves, to that person. They'll do anything for them, because they have no selfish motives in there. Like when a boy falls in love with a girl or vice versa, it's usually just a one-on-one thing. There's no selfish motives. The prime example we can see today at the moment is the love of a mother for her child. She'll do anything for her child. Sometimes she'll wake up 3, 4 times during the night just to see the child is okay, even though she finds it difficult, but that's just out of love she's doing that. I want to make sure my child is okay. Like when children go to school, they come back, the mother will cook for the children straight away just to make sure the children are not hungry. And on complete opposite side, we can see the other aspect of that is the classic example is the Gopis of Vrindavan. They were completely focused. The whole life was serving the Lord. That was the highest love for them. They do anything for Krishna. Even when Krishna said, I've got a headache, and the only way I can control my headache is I need the dust of the lotus feet. And everybody's refused, but the gopis were more than willing, so they were not looking for anything in return. They just say, whatever pleases our Lord, we're happy to serve him. We're happy to. That's a relationship, loving relationship that we have there. And then Krishna says, I am the mind, the senses and the mind. The mind is, as we all know, is very hard to control. That if you can control that, it's amazing. It's controlling the mind is difficult because the mind is something that controls the 5 senses. And those 5 senses and all the desires, that focal point is that mind. Everything goes down to that mind. Hands we can hear, we can see with eyes, smell, touch, taste. So all those are controlled by the mind. As soon as you see something, oh wow, I like that. That's really good. I should buy that. Oh, that looks really good. I should get that. And the mind will automatically drift that way. Oh yeah, I think I'll start doing more research into what that is. It's for yourself. The mind is constantly drifting away. So when you think of it, you got the dull matter. And dull matter, you got these 5 senses. Then above the 5 senses, you got the mind. And then higher than the mind, you have the intelligence. And higher than the intelligence, you have the soul. So you can see the hierarchy where everything is. So the dull matter is here. The senses are just below that, and then above that is the mind. So mind is in the middle. You can either make it, it's like a seesaw, so you can either tip either way, so you can either tip which way you want it to go. So if you're more inclined to your senses and want to serve your senses, it'll go down. But if you rather serve your intelligence and your soul, and you think, what, I need to find out more about this, and lead us to that way. Now, when you think of our body, the living beings, this body, again, it's made of these 5 gross elements. You've got earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And then you have the subtle body, which is of the false ego, intelligence, and mind. Remember back in chapter 15, Krishna was saying that I've created all this. And he left out those 3 things. The 5 gross things that we can see, earth, fire, air, water, ether, you can see the sky, sun, everything. But again, these 3 things we can't see. That's the subtle body, the false ego, intelligence, and the mind. I was listening to a lecture recently, and by His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, and he's saying that when the gross body is awake, the subtle body is awake. It's also awake. But when the gross body is sleeping, the subtle body is still awake. Now I was thinking, oh, hold on, how does that make? But then, when you think of it, what happens when you go to sleep? Your gross body goes to sleep, but your subtle body is still awake. We're dreaming. The dreams are with the subtle body. So, from that, we can understand that the subtle body is constantly awake. That consciousness as a component spark, that's what it is. It's like it provides that fire, ignites it, It's a natural component that is within us. It generates within us that the living force within us. That's what it is. And like this consciousness is not a product of any, like say chemical A, B, C, and D. You put them together, and there we have consciousness. It's not like that. You can't produce it. But consciousness is something that you can't. Well, you can see it, like in a person. You can see the person sitting there. I could say, I'm Rajesh Krishna. So if I wasn't here, if next moment I was to fall dead, you say, oh, that was Rajesh Krishna. It's not like, but that consciousness, that living thing, who we related to, that person is still there, but that living spark is gone. That's who we actually associate with. So as individuals, we all have souls, and we all reciprocate with those souls together. So when you look at it, everything has a consciousness, from us to animals to plants, everything, even though it's very lower consciousness, they all have, everything has a consciousness. So this consciousness is like, how to say? So the soul acts inside us as the driver. That's what drives us, the soul, the consciousness, is actually what drives us around doing whatever we do. The classic example, I think many of us have heard this many times, is like when we get a new car. We get a car, it's a fantastic car, you can get the latest car, I don't know what it is nowadays, but they call it a Mercedes car. You get a brand new car, you get in the car, you're the driver, you get in the car, you drive it around for so many years, and after a few years, things start need to have repairs done to it. Oh, the brakes are gone and the gearbox is gone, so we change the brakes, we change the gearbox. Oh, this is not working, we take it to a mechanic, he fixes it, and it carries on for some time. But they'll come to a certain point where you think, you know what, this car is no use to me. I'm constantly fixing it. I'm spending more time fixing the vehicle than I'm actually using it. So what do we do then is we decide to scrap the vehicle. I no longer want this vehicle now. I might as well, do you know what, just get a new one. So this car's become useless, I get rid of it. So in a similar way, this body over time will deteriorate. And after some time, we all go through this process where we have to sort of always constantly keep it up, how do you say? Keep it 101%, we see there's a time when we say, oh, I'm not feeling too well, my body's going down, my feeling's very weak. Some doctors will say, take these vitamins, take this, prep yourself up, you'll be okay, carry on going. The soul itself, the body might be deteriorating, but the soul itself still feels the same. That doesn't change. So I still, deep within, you still feel like, you know what, I'm still that 16-year-old person. I can jump from here to here to here to here. But the body itself is saying, hold on, you know what, you can't jump from here to there. You can't do this anymore because your body's changed so much. Like they say, I think, every 7 years, apparently, the whole cells in your body change. apart from, I don't know which one, that some don't change. I'm not sure, I can't be 100% sure on that. But yeah, the body changes. So what happens after a certain length of time, there will come a point where you say, I've tried so much, enough is enough. I tried to change, do so many repairs to myself, and then we say, we have to give up this body, Just like I said, if something was to happen to me, I'd give up. But then you say, the classic example was like they say, you say, this is Rajesh Krishna. Next minute you say, that was Rajesh Krishna. And then the family will say, oh yeah, that was my father, that was my brother, that was my brother. But he's still lying there. But why saying he was? He's still there, but because we relate to that soul, that spirit spark, which has gone away, that's where we differentiate it, but he's the person itself who we actually have that connection with, is that soul. Don't forget, we're all part and part of Krishna, part and parcel of Krishna, and we all have that living spark inside every one of us. That's where we relate to. So even though the person is there, but we say he's gone, but obviously he's moved on from that body to another body. So therefore, in conclusion, we say it's like, thanks to Srila Prabhupada, what he's done for us. He's made it so easy for us we don't want to carry on in the cycle of birth and death and so many species of life. I mean, like he always says, just give this one life to Krishna. We can try and do whatever we can. We need Srila Prabhupada's revealed this knowledge to us in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. And even Srila Prabhupada was saying, like, even though I've written these books, but I haven't actually written them. Even when I read them again and again, it's something new for me. So, for Srila Prabhupada, he was constantly, even though he's reading these, writing these, he was always reading them again. He'd say, read it to me. What did I write here? Because I don't know what I've written, it's not done by me. So thanks to Srila Prabhupada, he's made so many beautiful temples. You see the opulent deities here, and so many temples everywhere. He's giving opportunity to have the intimate, relationship. We automatically get attracted when we see Krishna here on the altar. People, in fact, come and tell us, when you compare how we, Srila Prabhupada was like, when you do something for Krishna, you do it 101%. You have to make sure it's absolutely perfect. There's no substandards to it. So I remember once we went to Delhi, we went to this other temple, and they had some deities of Krishna there. And we were looking at them, and like, here's our standards are very strict, the way you dress them, and it just, amazing it is. And there we just saw the pujari just in the middle of nowhere, things were going on, and he was saying to the person, oh yeah, you come on, you can put this flower garland on this. Oh, he's taken something of the deity, he goes, oh, you can have this, and someone else gives. And like, you're thinking, how does it work? They're just treating, you got Krishna, you should treat him with utmost respect. You can't just have anyone just coming up forward and doing whatever they want. It doesn't work that way. But thanks to Srila Prabhupada, he's given us this opportunity. Take up this opportunity to take this little service that we can. Read the Bhagavatam, read the Bhagavad Gita, do some service, come to the temple, do some service, engage ourselves in the service, help ourselves as well as help others. Because you never know who you're going to see here. Because what it leads down for us here is when we come to a temple and service, it develops that implicit faith in us that yes, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the absolute truth. And how else do we know it? We know it from Srila Prabhupada and through our spiritual masters who enliven us with this knowledge because they've seen it firsthand. And not only that, it's come down in this cyclic succession. So nothing's changed. They've seen everything. They know what they're talking about. They know the end result, and they would all like us in some short way or another to free ourselves from this cycle of birth and death. They've given us one chance, once in a lifetime opportunity to free ourselves from this. So when Krishna says, of the Vedas, I'm the Samveda, of the demigods, I'm Indra, and of the heavens, of the senses, I'm the mind, and then the living beings, I'm the living force. He's telling you what he is. And when we continue on these next verses, so on, he'll go into more detail and describe more about his opulence. But for the moment, I think we'll end here. Yes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Is there any questions or corrections or? I mean, matter like this, you know, the book stand, this is made out of wood. Yeah, because we're using it in service to Krishna, but there's no consciousness in this. This doesn't go through the process of birth, growing, fructifying, and then decaying. So it doesn't go through that process. So that's what we call dead matter. You have a table, chairs. We use them for the service of Krishna, which is good, but they don't undergo that process. No consciousness in them, you know. Whereas we have flowers and plants, we use them for the service of Krishna. That's what it is. That's how I understand it. Any other questions? Any suggestions? Please forgive me if I made any mistakes. Yeah. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki, Nantu Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki.